This is Bar Crawl Radio, and today we're gonna go to Russia.
Как-то летом на рассвете заглянул в соседний сад, там смуглянка молдаванка.
Okay. We're not really going to Russia. You knew that. That'd be a little too much. Anyway, it's really far away. But we are going to be talking about a play produced by the Medicine Show, a longtime New York City theatrical institution that was taken to Russia earlier this summer for the International Platonov Festival in Voronezh, Russia.
I feel like this is the kind of dance when they would do that kicking thing where they're way down.
Oh,
on the
yeah,
ground.
absolutely. Well,
Have you ever tried to do that?
I'm kicking under the table.
I am too. We're both. So cool. We're going to talk a little bit about the play, but mostly we want to hear about the experience of taking this play to Russia. The experience of the directors and the actors coming from the United States, performing in the Soviet Union. Well, it's not the Soviet Russia, right? Why is it? Is it Soviet Russia? Is that right?
No, it's not the Soviet Union at all.
It's a Russian Federation.
It's Russia.
Yeah, but you wrote Soviet Russian, so that's what I read.
Well, it's a Soviet-Russian play.
Oh, a Soviet Russian play.
Yeah.
Okay. Performing a Soviet Russian play. I guess I should look at the words.
That would help. Yeah, we haven't even started shooting vodka yet.
I know.
Wow, what is it going to be like in 20 minutes?
Whatever. Anyway, they're performing in Russia, some kind of play. And I'm Rebecca McCain, and my podcaster partner is Alan Winson. We are at Gephardt's Beer Culture Bar on West 72nd Street on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And here we go. But you know, that's Russian too.
I know, that's
It's appropriate, but we play that music all the time.
Eastern Blockheads.
That's our intro
The
music,
Eastern Blockheads, they play this Soviet pop music.
like from the 60s.
And that's our introduction bop music.
I love it.
Yeah. With us today are two actors and we have one director and maybe another director is going to join us. From the Medicine Show Theater, who recently were part of a production of Andrei Platonov's 14 Little Red Huts, performed at the International Platonov Festival in Voronezh, Russia.
Johan Ardelian is a Romanian-born American theater and cinema actor. He won the debut award at the Contemporary Theater Festival Brasov, Romania. Brasov, Romania. Is that right? Did I pronounce
Brasov.
it? Brasov. And was nominated for the Best Actor at Hot Festival, Costinești, Romania.
Yeah.
We'll get a language lesson here.
I know.
Yeah. More's coming later.
Johan's stage, commercial, and film credits are most impressive and includes Shakespearean productions and modern plays at the Romanian National Theatre and the Almeida Theatre in London, and several off-Broadway productions in New York City.
And Joel Bernstein may be joining us.
He is.
So he's
Oh,
here.
he's walking in right
Here he
now.
is.
Yay.
Here's Joel. Hi.
It's okay. It's
All right.
okay.
Your seat's right there. Just get your mic is hot.
Okay.
And
We're having vodka shots.
we're going to have a vodka
in honor
shot.
of Russia. We're having vodka.
Yeah. So you know how to pour the shot.
Huh?
Oh, I poured it too high?
Yeah, it's too hot because you just want to shoot it.
Oh, well, I don't
Oh, yeah.
shoot.
Wow.
All right. This is
Vodka is such a delicate. I
okay.
don't like to shoot.
So introduce Joel.
You, me, that's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Joel.
We good?
I'm going to introduce you.
Please do.
Joel Bernstein co-directed the play for the International Platonov Festival.
Platonov.
Platonov Festival. He has many directing credits, including at the Pearl Theater, where he was a founding member. Unfortunately, that theater closed in 2017. Joel is a stage and film TV actor. He has performed at the Pearl and at the Medicine Show and on Broadway. And he acted in all 4 seasons of Amazon's Golden Globe winning Mozart in the Jungle. And now I've never watched that show, but I'm definitely going to watch it
Well,
now.
we're going to watch it.
It's really good.
Did you have a good
I'm
role?
sure.
Recommend it.
Yeah, I had a great role. I played the concert master
of the non-existent New York Symphony Orchestra. I mean, it was a...
Well, it existed in the show.
It did. And I was on so many episodes, and
Wow. A paying gig.
it was, in fact, a paying gig.
That's
but
great.
now a memory, as all
Well,
of them
as
are.
all things become.
Exactly.
And I want to introduce Tara Steinberg. She is a New York City-based stage and film actor and voiceover artist. She recently appeared at the 13th Street Repertory Theater and the Cell Theater. Tara is a graduate of the New York Conservatory for Dramatic Arts. Welcome, Tara. And last, if not least,
Definitely least.
is Chris Brandt, who is not only old, but he's an old friend. I feel I can say that, even though we have known him for only about a year. I mean, it's amazing I've known you for only a year. It seems like I've known you I've known you my whole life.
Much longer.
Yeah.
That's really.
It has been a concentrated relationship. Chris is an actor, college professor, translator of plays, writer of poetry, carpenter, civil disobedience protester, lover of life, and generally a wise and learned being of life.
Yikes.
That's your resume, Chris.
I like it.
Yeah.
Quite the resume.
Over to you, Chris.
So welcome all to Bar Crawl Radio.
And so we're going to.
Oh, well, before we begin,
Yeah.
we thought a Russian toast with vodka to our to your production.
Wait a minute. Before you go, I have a little lesson here for you.
Your health. Ваше здоровье.
Vasha Zdarovia.
Vasha
Здоровья.
Okay, here we go. Vasha
Vasha
Zdarovia.
Здоровья.
Are we shooting?
Zdarovia.
Are we shooting?
Not
Are we doing
me.
a clink?
I'm not shooting.
Clink.
You get to shoot.
All right. We're spilling. Oh, hoopa.
There you go.
Okay. And as we move through the show, we're going to be toasting the 14
Various
Little Red
things.
Huts. And then who knows, by the end, who knows what we'll be toasting. We may even toast Donald Trump. I don't know.
We may be
don't go
toast.
that far.
That might take a lot of vodka.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
More than that bottle.
that's what vodka is good for.
Okay, so maybe we can begin with a brief introduction of the Medicine Show. It's been a New York City theater scene since splitting off from the Open Theater in 1970. And Chris, you know something about this history?
Yeah, I've been a member of Medicine Show since 1973. And
So you began almost from the beginning.
almost the beginning,
Yeah.
two years after they founded it. And Medicine Show has done a tremendous amount of stuff, and with a very wide range, all the way from the most experimental, weird, out there kind of stuff, all the way to revivals of Cole Porter musicals from the 1920s that had never been done since.
Wow.
Right. And we're talking about actually bringing some poetry to the Medicine Show. I hope we get to do that.
I hope we do, yeah.
What was the overview in terms of picking what productions to do?
Well,
Were you looking for things that hadn't been done before?
basically looking for things that are impossible to do.
Like 14 Little Red Huts.
Like 14 Little Red Huts, which
There
is
you
an
go.
enormously
And Caligula.
difficult play.
Yeah.
Caligula was another one.
And Chris translated Caligula at their recent
Right.
production of Caligula.
And things like Ubu and
Ubu is a great
Henry
play.
Fielding's Tom Thumb the Great.
Oh, wow.
And Tom Thumb is sitting right there.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
look at him. He was behind something, so I couldn't see him.
I know. I've grown.
Oh, okay. And there's Tom.
Not very much.
There's Tom. We were talking about weird things that the Medicine Show produces. Why did the Medicine Show Theater produce this very strange? I'm going to describe it because I don't quite understand it. I want to. A surrealist play by a writer whose plays are not produced in the U.S. And in fact, 14 Little Red Hut wasn't produced in the U.S. I mean, until you guys produced it, I think.
Well, it wasn't produced in the Soviet Union ever.
And certainly it wasn't produced in his lifetime.
Actually, in 1986, it was still the Soviet Union, but it was after Glasnost and Perestroika.
I looked up, it said it was first produced in his hometown, Voronezh, in 2014 by director Mikhail Bychkov.
Yes, Bichkov.
Bychkov. Right, right. It was written in 1936. So this is not a well-done play. Why do it? Why did the Medicine Show choose?
An English language translation of it, the first English language translation, was published by the Columbia University Press, and they offered us the chance to do the first English language production of the play.
Okay.
In 2017,
Right.
100th anniversary of the Russian Revolution, so we did a Russian season that year, and this was the first play we did, and we did a terrible job of it the first year.
Wow. And there is a video of it. You
There's
can
a video
find it on YouTube. Right?
Yeah, but we didn't really understand the play then. It took being away from it for 6-8 months and then coming back to it because we were invited to go to Voronezh, and so we had to remount the play.
You had to figure out what it was about.
And yeah, and I think we've almost got there. I don't feel like I still understand it,
All
really.
right, so
Not
you got-
completely.
look, before we talk about the play, and I would like to talk about the play a little bit, because really our focus for this show is your experience of going to Russia. But I do want to get a little bit of the play. But who was Andrei Platonov? Johan?
Yes, Andrei Platonov was a very well-known playwright, poet, and also philosopher, Russian philosopher, and wasn't very was well known in Russia, but because of the Soviet Union and because of Stalin and because of all those communists, because his writing was against the collectivization and against communism, against socialism, and like that he wasn't very produced and published.
Right. But I hear Stalin kind of liked him.
No,
No? Stalin didn't like him.
no. He called him scum, and he called him a good writer and a son of a bitch, depending upon where you look up
Yeah.
your googling. And in order to keep an eye on him, he sent his son, his 15-year-old son,
Right.
to the Gulag. 3 years later, the son was released, but only on the intervention of Mikhail Sholokhov, who wrote Quiet Flows the Don, which was immensely popular in Russia and later here in the U.S. And the son came back at 15 and died at 18 of tuberculosis that he had contracted.
But his father had, Platonov had taken care of him. And I heard that he got
He got tuberculosis
tuberculosis
as
also.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
and he died later on. Yeah, exactly.
In 1951.
In 51, yeah.
right. So Platonov is a not a well-known, at least in this country. Maybe the Medicine Show could revive him. I see, Chris, you're reading one of his novels called Foundation Pit.
That was his most famous work.
Right.
It was actually published during Soviet times, but Johan said he was against the communist idea. He wasn't really against it. He was against what was being done with it by Stalin.
At first, he was very much on board with the revolution.
He was an engineer,
Yeah.
and in addition to everything else that he was a multi-talented man. And
Yes.
he spent I think 6 or 8 years not writing, but digging wells and engineering projects for the collectivization of the steppe.
Right.
Yes, and probably when he realized what's all about, he couldn't take it anymore, and
Yeah.
he was absolutely against. That's why he was on the side,
Right.
and nobody could touch him. And probably what I think he, because I always asked myself why Stalin didn't kill him.
Exactly.
Interesting,
Because
He could have, because he killed a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe he had too many fans, and it would have made
I think so.
a big deal. But
I
what
think
if,
so. Like Meyerhold,
Like
as long
Meyerhold.
as long as Stanislavski was alive, nobody touched him. As soon as Stanislavski died, they killed him.
Wow.
So what about the play? Is it sympathetic or against Stalin? Because I remember hearing that we were talking. Yeah, it's confusing.
I read the play to get ready for this. And I'm telling you, it was a slog.
And he told me not to read it.
It was a real slog. And then I watched the video, which kind of helped a little bit. I mean, your production that you, Johan, you produced in 2017, it's available on YouTube. We talked about it. And Tara, who's here, played one of the roles, Suyunita.
Suyunita.
Suyunita, right. And so it's like, what is this play about? Like, it seems very brooding, it seems very heavy. It's like Chekhov, but it's not really Chekhov. I mean, this is not a Chekhovian play. Abstract, surrealist. I mean, can we describe? Tara, you performed it. What is this play about?
What is it about?
The play is very confusing, as you learned. One thing that I learned from someone who has studied Platonov, which I thought was a very great description of it, she described it like how, you know, The Daily Show right now, how it's full of all these references to today. If you fast forward 100 years, I mean, not even, you fast forward 50 years, and we were to watch an episode of The Daily Show today, we wouldn't understand it.
It wouldn't be funny.
And that's kind of, it wouldn't be funny.
Maybe the
exactly.
play's meant to be funny.
And that's what this play is, because the play is written essentially, I had read somewhere that he started writing it as a comedy, and then by the end he had switched and it had become a tragedy. So that's why the tone really is all over the place. At the beginning, it starts as this surrealist comedy, and then as it goes on, that comedy continues, but it becomes ultimately a tragedy.
Interesting.
So as artists trying to figure out that tone, that was, I think, one of the biggest challenges.
When I was saying that maybe
Biggest
it's a
challenges
comedy.
for an actor and for a performer.
For a performer,
And a
certainly,
director,
yes.
yeah.
And
When
I think
I-
for all of us, yeah.
When I was saying, is it a comedy, Johan was making a look and going and shaking his head no, and kind of like giving this rolling the eyes almost. Not a comedy.
Yes, it's strange because sitting in the audience in Voronezh, I was so surprised because the Russian audience, they laugh.
They
at
did.
yes, at something,
something.
at some
Interesting.
things which we never thought somebody could laugh at.
And
That's
were they
a
laughing
surprise.
with the play or at the play?
No, was laughing absolutely.
They got the joke.
They got the joke.
got the joke.
And interesting was they start laughing and after that stopped their laugh. You know, because it's interesting. The situation probably was some comedy, but after that, when you realized what in fact is there, you stopped because you said
Because it's real.
Yes.
Do you remember a specific incident?
Oh, I really don't remember a really specific because I was
Yeah.
my blood pressure was
Right.
over the top and I was just
Right.
trembling
That's really
there. but-
interesting. Plays are watched in context of the society in which they're watched.
Exactly.
The community in which they're watched. We did a documentary some time ago, and I took a piece of it to Britain to try to raise some money for the documentary, and we had put a piece of music in it that we thought was
Lovely
like really
music.
lovely music, and
Very heartwarming.
and heartwarming and like a really dramatic part of the documentary. And it's like as soon as the music came on, the whole audience, we were in a theater, started laughing. And I'm going like, what the fuck is going on?
I mean, it's
It's
not.
like, why are they laughing?
What's going on
It
in the
turned
film is
out
not something you
that
would laugh
this piece
at.
of music is used in a milk commercial in London.
Oh my
I didn't
gosh.
know that.
Right. Yeah.
Oops.
Yes. Exactly.
And so, I mean, the total context of this beautiful, kind of like lovely music to,
Now he can't listen to that music.
I can't
anymore.
listen to it anymore. Right.
And it's
Right.
nice
It was
music.
so shocking. But yes, plays are done in context. But we haven't got to what this is about.
About 2.5 hours.
All right, I'll toast to that. I think we should have a toast.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, does anyone need a refresher?
Here's to the point.
Yeah.
I do, actually.
All right, here we go.
Oh.
Here we go. All right, I'm pouring a little more. Everybody's.
I do have.
There we go. Joel, you go.
Well, thank you.
All right, are you okay? You okay? All right.
Okay.
So, to 2.5 hour plays.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Here, here.
All right.
Well, and this was cut a
2.5.
lot. It would have been 3.5 hours.
2.5 hour plays by dead playwright.
All right.
I mean,
all right.
ultimately.
Yeah, here
I
we go.
think
Thank you, Tara, for
we
answering the
all-
question.
Because we had a discussion once in rehearsal of what the play was about for us.
Yeah.
And everyone had their own idea of what the really bottom line point, like what the story
The
really
essence.
was. Yeah, what the essence of what we were trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, for example, it's really about how government policies affect people and how people deal with that. And that is something, I think for me when I approach especially a political piece, whether it's from the modern era or from a previous era, we find what is still meaningful for us to learn from today. And this play, ultimately, once you dig through all that language that is so hard to understand, you are able to find a lot of lessons that can be applied to what's going on right now.
Your language does seem stilted, and it must be difficult for an actor to kind
It's
of
of
get
a
through
time, right?
that. No, I mean even
Well, it's in the
you
translation.
get a little closer, Joel.
The translation is by an English translator, so
Right.
there's a layer of Britishisms that you have to kind of peel away or ignore or recast, which we did a little bit from time to time.
Right. Which you have to do with Shakespeare too sometimes.
Well, you oughtn't, but people do.
So from the director, Johan, what is the play about?
Okay, the play.
Okay, here we go.
Yes, for me was okay. I used to live in a communist country. I know what the communist.
In Romania.
Yes, I know what it means to lose your property overnight. I know what it means to today you have your own land and tomorrow you have no land and you have to go to work for the state and it's your property. You work your own land, but
That's right.
everything is going to the state. It's devastating. If you didn't want, to give your land to the state, and they came, they killed your son, they killed your kids, they don't let your kids to go to school.
They took your goats.
Absolutely, that's why I was very. I really loved when Chris proposed and gave me the play to direct in 2017, because I felt like I can put a part of me there,
Right,
right. And that's all about.
Now, Joel,
The farmers killed the animals when
they stole them.
No.
Oh,
They
in the real-
killed
in the-
in
yeah,
real world.
yeah.
They killed the
Yeah.
animals.
Joel, you
didn't wanna
co-directed
give 'em
this.
to
What was
I
the play
did.
about for you?
Well, for me, it was a continuing revelation. I mean, I'm a big one for research and reading the play and in preparation for each rehearsal. I only co-directed because Johan was unavailable for April and May.
Okay.
And he could only.
And I guess you approach it from an actor's perspective too.
Well, I'm an actor primarily, so yeah, sure, I kind of approach it everything from that perspective.
Right.
But I don't know. The best definition of acting that I know is acting is what happens to you while you're trying to get what you want. And in a social context,
It reminds me of a song. Life is what you get when
life
you.
is what happens while you're busy making other plans.
Right.
John Lennon.
There you go.
Yeah, which is good too.
I was also thinking Zorba. There's a line in Zorba about life is what happens. Anyway, go on. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Zorba, I don't have at the tip
You
of my
don't- okay.
fingers.
That's how Alan's brain works, though. It's,
Yeah, no.
it's dinging around like a pinball machine right now.
Yeah, sadly, mine is too, but just different pinballs. But so this was the socialist experiment, and this is how it went awry. And that's sort of what the piece is
Right.
built on, You see them so hopeful at the very beginning in the first few scenes. I mean, Stalin was so invested in trains, knitting together this vast country. In the first scene, although
It takes place in a train station.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly, and so that was important, and the people enter with purpose and
Yeah.
with courage. They're living in something that they're making happen.
Really important.
Yeah, and then we cut to the town on the steppes, and where there's been forced collectivization, and this village that has existed for thousands of years.
Right.
The social fabric is totally upended. They're forced to be, socialist. They're managed. They have to send their quota of meat to Sovmeat every
That's right.
month, and they didn't get anything to eat themselves.
And children too. Their children are taken too.
And there's cannibalism that occurs, or you don't see this directly in the play, but you see it hinted at
Right.
in ways that Russians, whom I spoke with, could readily discern.
Right. I only have, I don't have the experience that you have, but I think I'm leaning towards maybe Chris's interpretation, because like any good thing, there is a depth to it. I see this as a play of the young and the old.
Well,
How do you see this play?
The great mystery for me in this play, it's not an essay about what went wrong with the revolution. If you want to read that, read
Right.
Trotsky, The Revolution Betrayed.
Yeah, no, it's not an essay at all, which is so beautiful about the whole thing.
Yes, and what the great mystery of it is, how could this horrible stuff be happening and the people still revere Stalin and believe in the goals of the revolution, even though it's killing them? And how does that happen? And that's, to me, that's the psychological and emotional depth of the play.
So that was the case, though. I thought there was rebellions and
There were some rebellions,
Small ones.
but no, mostly the rebellions were fomented from outside the country.
Right.
In the country, the collectivization, as much as they suffered, they did it, and they did it.
but they were angry. They killed their animals instead of giving them to the government,
Some did, yeah.
but not all.
I'll tell you what, why don't we listen to a scene that we recorded some months ago in another podcast that I direct called Upper West Side Neighbors. Tara performed in it, Chris performed in it, and Brian Marshall performed in this little excerpt from the beginning of 14 Little Red Huts. So let's listen to an enactment of a scene from Act 1 of 14 Little Red Huts by Andrei Platonov. The character is played by Brian Marshall as a political writer. He's not with us, but he was in that original podcast. Chris Brandt plays as host, and Tara Steinberg reading Suyoneta. Here's the setup. Suyoneta enters a train station at the beginning of the play. She's returning to her peasant village, where she is the leader of that village. She is met by Hose. He's a century-old man. He's 100 years old, whose the task is to explain the mystery of world economy. All right, so you're getting some of that surrealistic kind of quality. So he has to explain the mystery of world economy. He immediately falls in love with the young woman. This is my interpretation, but I think he does. And eventually goes back with Suyoneta to her village. And this is their first meeting. So here we go.
Poor creation of nature.
We are not rich. Which is the way out to the Kazan station? I need to travel to the desert.
What is your name, creature of God? Where are you hurrying to, Soviet child?
I am not a child. I'm the chairman of the pastoral kolkhoz, the Little Red Huts. I'm on my way home to the Caspian Sea.
What a wonder of life. A child ruling a village kingdom. Where have you come from, my defenseless one?
I am not defenseless. We have the kolkhoz, and I have a husband in the Red Army. I've been to Leningrad. I was given a library as a prize.
Comrade Chairman, how many of your households have been collectivized? Is there any activity on the part of the kulaks? Are there any crises of organizational or economic consolidation? Is there not an urgent need to dispatch to your kolkhoz a storming and liquidation brigade of writers? I myself am a member of a cultural brigade.
Writers? But are they clever? We have 14 Little Red Huts. We had nothing to read. We'd read everything already. At night in the kolkhoz, we read aloud. The lamp burns. The glass is cracked from the flame, and I read, while everyone around me thinks, and it's dark everywhere. You can hear the sound of the Caspian Sea. We'd read all the books. They weren't interesting anymore. It was boring living only with our minds. Then I was given a library as a prize for the excellence of my register of workdays. They said they'd be sending the books, but the books never came. What does bureaucracy care about socialism? So I went to collect the books myself, but now I need to find the way out to the Kazan station, to where you buy tickets without seat reservations.
Here before you, Mr. Holst, stands a small being of socialism.
A huge being, my dear. The whole of God's world is contained in this poor being. Give me your hand, my happy one. And Boss kisses her hand.
Now you should spit. My hand's dirty. Hands aren't for kissing, they're for working and hugging.
And there we have a scene with Hoz, played by Chris Brandt, and Suyaneta, played by Tara Steinberg, from 14 Little Red Huts. Yeah, I mean, this was done before you went off to Russia. Well, you know what I'm seeing? And let me throw it in here because it's like, this is my show, so I guess I could say what I want to say. We have a comparison here between Hoz, 100 years old, very old man, and that view on life, which is like from life almost from the top of a mountain, kind of seeing the whole thing, seeing like the whole picture and kind of putting it all together and seeing there's much more to it than just the focus that you have, which is an important focus that Suyaneta has on getting the village done, doing the practical stuff, but the older person kind of sees more of kind of the big picture.
Well, I think this was Johan's brilliant vision of the piece, that Hoz cannot die, that he is in searching for the answer to these imponderable questions of what is life and why are we here?
Yeah.
And what are we doing in the middle of this mess and this famine that's happening? And he can't die, and he keeps coming back, and that's why he says that I cannot say goodbye to you forever.
Yes. Right. At the end of the play, I can say goodbye. I will be back when you are going to be old and you are going to understand more about this world.
Right.
And Platonov does not give that instruction in the script, but that was Johan's vision for it, and I think that made it work for our production extremely well.
Right.
So what did you learn from the first production that changed the next production?
Yeah, what did you change in the one that you took to Voronezh?
Yes.
Because it looked different when I saw it. There was a picture in the Voronezh festival, and it had a different look to it.
Oh, yes. Okay. First of all, we changed the cast. Most of the cast was that's first changed.
Yeah, Tara came in.
Yes. And after that, what I really did for the second time, for the play which we went to Voronezh with, I introduced a path through where the actors enter from that path, and was in a slow motion. Every single entrance was in a slow motion. Looks like you are from another world, coming from another world to this world, and I think that worked well, and gave another dynamic, rhythm, and another gravity to the entire play,
right.
In my opinion.
No,
And what I could see also in Voronezh, as I said before, people, they were laughing at some moments which we didn't really thought those are comedy for us, but probably they resonate in another way with the play, and at the end, a lot of the audience, they were in tears. Which was absolutely a great experience to see, because your work was well received and was well done.
And we're going to talk about your experience in Voronezh at the Chamber Theater there in just a moment.
Я бледнею, я краснею, захотелось вдруг сказать, станем над рекою, зоркий летний встречать.
This is Bar Crawl Radio, recording at Gephardt's Beer Culture Bar on West 72nd Street, across the street from the mortuary and down the block from Grace Papaya and Trader Joe's. We only work near Trader Joe's.
Yeah,
that's in our
only Trader
contract.
Joe's, right? Because we work at Gabriella's,
which is
also near Trader Joe's, right?
We are talking with the directors and actors of Medicine Show's production of Platonov's 14 Little Red Huts, which they recently performed at the International Platonov Festival in the writer's hometown, Voronezh.
Perfect.
I got a thumbs up.
Voronezh.
Voronezh, okay.
I've been practicing it for several months.
So let's talk about your trip to Russia. Johan, you directed the initial production of 14 Huts at the Medicine Show. How did this production get invited to the International Platonov Festival in Voronezh, Russia?
Yes. that was very interesting because we did the show, everything was done, and after a month, I think, somebody sent me an email saying we saw you directed 14 Little Red Hats at the Medicine Show Theater in New York. We would like to see your show if you filmed or something. Because
How do you think they found it?
Someone came to the show.
No.
No. Oh.
No.
Oh,
In
they saw
2000
that you were doing it. I see.
Yes, in 2017, when I went and I started Googling Andrei Platonov, I barely could find something about Platonov. And I am sure they were looking for everything what was done by Platonov in the world, because the name of the festival is Andrei
Right,
Platonov
yeah,
Festival.
I see.
And they were really interested, to see how the productions are all over the world. And they sent an email. I talked to Chris, and I said, Chris, look, we might have a possibility, let's see what's going to happen.
So you had something
Yes.
on
And
video?
we put on YouTube. We send them the link to YouTube, and they watched the show, and they invited us. They love it.
And there you are.
Yeah.
Three of us had a conversation in the early spring about 14 Little Red Hots on another podcast that I do, Upper West Side Neighbors. At the time, I asked you all, and Brian was there too, I forget his last name, if any of you had concerns about going to the former Soviet Union, going to the country that helped elect Donald Trump. So what was your biggest, in arriving, I guess you arrived to Moscow, right?
Yes.
All right. So what was your biggest surprise or concern while you were on the plane as you were going
What were you
there,
all talking about?
as you were arriving in Putin land?
Will we make
By the way,
it back
I
to
want
New York?
I want to toast a toast to Putin land.
A toast to Putin.
Putinland.
To the great man Putin and his dear friend Donald Trump.
Donald. Yeah, here's to the Donald.
To the Donald. God bless him,
Oh my God.
because I'm not gonna.
Long may he wait.
Yeah, I can't even say that out loud.
Long may he lean
this
right.
is really off topic. But we have a friend who goes to a therapist, and his therapist, and we go to a therapist.
And he's a
therapist
liberal like we are.
And his therapist is conservative. And we're like,
he's a Trump supporter.
I couldn't go to a.
Can you imagine going to a therapist who's a Trump supporter?
No.
I couldn't do it.
No, because that's why I would be in therapy.
Exactly. Can you imagine?
That's why you're there.
That's funny.
I talked to my therapist about Donald Trump.
That's funny.
Okay. So you're on the plane. You're going to Moscow.
It's an
You-
Aeroflot plane, too.
Aeroflot, and you're going to do this play for this very critical Russian audience. I mean, what were you thinking? What were your concerns?
What was different than you expected?
Well, when we got there, I discovered that not only did they know this play because it's his hometown and all that, but they have a production of this which went up 5 years ago.
Oh God!
That the head of the festival and the head of the theater where we performed directed that play. And I thought, oh my God, it's going to be a competition
You're
here.
toast.
And it wasn't in the least.
All right, but that was your worry.
That was
When-
I thought, my
You're going to
God,
be judged, evaluated.
we're a bunch of stupid Americans trying to do this Russian play for the people who invented this stuff. And,
Yeah,
and
as if you
it's
know
never-
any of this.
It's never going to happen.
Right.
And yet, we couldn't have been more welcomed.
Wow.
Well, that's certainly true, but in terms of what we were thinking before the trip and going over there, I mean, I watch MSNBC. I know what's going on. I mean, and I watched all those hearings yesterday, or
Yeah, I got as much of it as I could.
yeah, closer to that as much.
This is
as I
the
could.
Robert Mueller hearings.
Yeah.
Who
sorry.
knows when this is going to be?
Yes, of course.
broadcast.
Robert Mueller, all the time. But so,
is true.
I mean, really, but so you go over thinking, we're in the land of people who I was almost going to say several times, take me to the troll farms. Take me to the Internet Research Agency.
Yeah, that's right.
And in fact, I was
You know where they are.
We know where they are. And I was in St. Petersburg. I wasn't too far from there. I read their address afterwards.
Well, we've seen the building.
You've seen the building.
That's right.
You've seen the movie.
You've seen. That's right.
Exactly. You've checked out the websites. So yeah, I had certain concerns about it, and it was
Well, when we did our online fundraising campaign, we put it up there as "Help us get to Russia and back."
You know, since you raised that question, did you eventually pay for this trip?
Oh, yeah, we did. We made
Kinda.
just enough to pay the
Becky and I did
expenses of the
contribute a
trip.
little bit, so.
So what was
Yeah.
your concern? You were just saying you.
well, you
you're
know,
concerned.
you thought you just go in thinking, are they following me? Are
Yeah,
they,
right,
Are they
right,
going
right.
to put a chip in my leg somehow
And what was the
when I'm asleep?
and what was the reality?
Well, the reality was, as most realities are, far more complicated than what you imagine it's going to be.
Far more complicated.
Yeah,
Complex.
and on a wider spectrum of things. I mean,
What
on
about-
on a self-serving personal note, I ran into several people who had seen Mozart in the Jungle, which surprised me. But then it didn't, because it was very much an international show, and you know it's out there. It was on the in-flight entertainment at
Get out.
in Aeroflot, yeah. But
Was everyone like turning around on the plane and going, oh,
no,
look,
no,
there-
no, no, no,
Look, there,
no.
there's that guy that
No.
was conducting the
no,
orchestra.
No. That has happened, but not on that airplane.
On the airplane.
No,
No,
but
because they were drinking too much vodka.
Yeah, and I wasn't drinking enough.
Oh, I'll toast to that. Too much vodka there. So there you go. All right, I need an excuse to continue here this toasting now.
If I can scoot through this
Yeah.
incident very quickly, I was in St. Petersburg after we finished in Voronezh, and I wanted to see. I had done a walking tour of St. Petersburg the day before. That was a Dostoevsky walking tour, because he spent a lot of time.
Terrific.
Which was extraordinary. But the one place we never stopped during that tour was his home. So I wanted to see it. So we took my wife and I. My wife was there. They'd graciously hired her as a photographer for the.
Nice.
Yeah, it was very sweet. And
Nice.
she-
Maybe you can share some of the pictures with us.
Yeah, I would love to. I don't have them on me, but we got.
Yeah, we
them.
can put it on. We can put it on the Barcore Radio website.
Yeah. So we took the subway in St. Petersburg up to the place where we thought the home would be. We got out of the train. It was a little bit disorienting.
In St. Petersburg.
In
yeah.
St. Petersburg, yeah. And I'd done a little Duolingoing, so I had a little bit of Russian, you know. So I tapped a lady at a bus stop, and I said, in my horrific Russian, "Где дом Dostoevsky?" Where's Dostoevsky's house?
Right.
And she said, I don't know. And she tapped her phone and tried to figure it out, and scratched her head, tapped a stranger's head who was also waiting for the bus,
Yeah.
and they conferred. And then they said, and then they pointed that way, and my wife and I started walking, but they followed with us.
Wow.
And they walked, they missed their bus.
Yeah.
They walked,
Wow.
I don't know how far out of their way. They went down the steps, because that's where the museum was, and
Right.
and it was clearly not open, and they rang the buzzer long and hard, and you could hear conversation, which I know was, they're from New York. They've got to see they're only
Oh, wow.
they're going back tomorrow. They must see all of which was true. And the person did not let us in, because it turned out it was Monday. Everything, all the Russian museums are closed.
Closed on Monday.
On Monday.
Yeah.
As they are in the United States.
As they are, except for MoMA in the United States.
Right.
So
We're not that different.
we're not that different.
Right.
No.
You know, I would imagine New Yorkers are like that too.
Oh, yeah.
I was in Paris, and I remember Parisians helping me.
Yeah.
You'll find
No,
some
no,
people are people.
Absolutely. And that was what, that's always heartening. I mean, we try to be as helpful as possible when strangers come up to us and ask directions,
Right.
They were just being people.
Yes.
And really sweet people, you know.
Right. And proud of their country.
And proud of their
of-
country.
of
They said, this
Dostoevsky.
woman said, in halting English, I have a daughter in Los Angeles. I said, we have a daughter in Los Angeles. And then,
Maybe they know each other.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was just like,
Don't we have a daughter in Los Angeles?
Nope.
No, okay.
Anyway, but
I don't
what?
anyway.
Stuff like that would happen. But then there were moments when you just thought, I don't know. I mean, you don't know.
It's like in this country too. It's like you don't know in some ways. I mean, we're different cultures. But yeah, go
Well,
on. Becky has a
I want
question.
to ask Tara too. What did you think? What was your
I mean,
perspective?
Piggybacking off of Joel a little bit, ultimately a huge thing for me was how warm everyone was. I mean, I was going with all sort of, anxieties.
Yeah,
mainly
definitely.
mainly about performing, but also just going there. I mean,
Talk about those anxieties of performing. You're going to Russia, the home of Stanislavski. You
Yeah.
probably know about
Build it
Stanislavski
up here.
and the method. And you're going to perform at a Russian audience who knows all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was my biggest fear was, how are they going to receive us, this audience? Because we had been working so hard on trying to tell this story, but ultimately we are Americans and this is not our history. So to go
Or your story.
It is not our story to tell, really.
Yeah.
Before we had performed, we participated in this press conference. That was really terrifying for
Yes,
multiple
absolutely.
reasons.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things was recognizing how, we'd already experienced their warmth, how excited they were to have us there. So that excitement was definitely felt and appreciated. But to see how excited they were to see us perform. And in a lot of ways while that made me feel better, it also made me feel even more anxious because I was like, well, what if we fail them,
Yeah.
Like, what if we show them our show and they're like, oh, this is not true at all.
They got
And
it
we
totally wrong.
They got it totally wrong, or God forbid we insulted
pressure.
them in some way.
And you didn't.
And the magic was we didn't. It was so well received that it was almost overwhelming how well received it was.
There were standing ovations.
This sounds like an amazing experience.
You know what I think? I think that they really saw that you were sincerely trying to get this.
Absolutely.
As difficult as it was, maybe even for them, even with all their understandings of the colloquialisms and the context, they appreciated that you were really trying to make it.
Yeah, and my sort of one sentence answer that, because people have been asking me how it was, and I say it was an incredible experience as a human and as an artist. I mean, both things were really amazing. One small personal story I'll share was for me, this is a moment that stands out the most was after the end of the first performance. I had gone up, we had these young girls that the festival had assigned to be our translators and to be our guides. They
Our
were
minders.
training.
Really?
Yeah.
You felt like they were minders?
Well, literally. Well, kind of. I mean, we couldn't go anywhere alone.
Do you feel they were part of the government?
No, they were very sweet. They were nice.
I'm not saying they're not sweet, but were they part of the government?
No.
They
As
were-
far as-
They
don't think
didn't
so.
let us go anywhere alone. Not because they were afraid
No,
we'd
they
go
were
in the
just
wrong
being
place.
great
They were
hosts.
being great hosts.
Yeah,
okay.
but by the same token, if you were in
okay.
a paranoid frame of mind, and I'm always in a paranoid frame of mind,
You're going
were
to see it
thinking-
the way you see it.
Yeah, you're thinking, I don't know. She's so nice. She's so young. And she's so,
what's her
what's
motivation
her
here?
damn motivation?
So we have 11 people listening to us from China, listening to Bar Crawl Radio. We have this
Great.
does
We're in
the
close
analytics.
contact with those 11 people. right?
And we really believe that they're part of the government, and they listen to a lot of different podcasts. So then last time we had this little show, there was a really weird buzzing sound. We didn't know where it was coming from, and it was like this. It was very weird. It was like this wave.
We
And
thought
it
it
would
was
come and
China or
go.
North Korea.
So
or
I said,
something.
"Oh, it's China."
Yeah,
It's
right.
that paranoia.
Well,
Right.
it's out there. I mean,
All right, does someone else want to make a toast? I mean, we got this whole bottle we have to get through. I'm offering a time to make a toast. Otherwise, I'll make a toast to the Russian people.
Yes.
Oh,
To the
nice.
Russian
Yeah.
people.
I'll drink to that.
Absolutely.
To the Russian people who
Russian
took
people.
care of our
Yeah.
American
Yeah.
performers.
and the mysterious Russian soul, which they talk to us
And
about.
the mysterious Russian soul.
Well,
I'll drink to that.
Oh, what did
That
they
was-
say? What did they say?
They said
Chris?
they were amazed that Americans could get that Russian sorrow and that Russian soul.
Yeah.
And they felt that we had gotten it. I mean,
Yeah.
It's something beautiful
pretty
about it. I mean,
amazing,
you get
yeah.
it from Tolstoy, you get it from Dostoevsky. I mean, you get that,
Well,
you
it's-
feel that Russian soul, and check off all those plays. There's just it's almost like they revel in it, though
Well-
they're not happy. But it's just something that it's beautiful.
Well, they're deep people, you know.
Yeah.
They're just like, you know, there's a lot going on there. I mean, in that audience,
I wish we were deeper.
well, you know,
Well, they have
I love being shallow.
and they have a few thousand more years of history than we do.
The shallowness.
To shallowness, yes.
And a lot of tragedy that they've gone through as a people, and I think that affects it a lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Chris, you're going again.
I got to pee again.
Oh, well, okay, you got to pee. You got to pee. So Chris is leaving us for a second. Were you reviewed? Was there any critical review of the show?
Yes.
Any local
Yes.
newspapers that said the Americans were here?
No. Everybody was really impressed, and all the reviews, they're in Russian, and we are expecting now to.
What does that
to-
mean? Very
to-
Russian.
No. They're
In
written in
Russian.
Russian,
Okay.
in Russian language.
So we can't read them.
We
is
can't
what he's
read
saying.
them. Yeah, we couldn't understand
Except
them,
with
and we are waiting for our.
Okay, all right.
translation.
I have a
yes,
challenge
the
for you.
translations.
You're a director. You're an actor. What did the reviews say?
What do you think?
Improv.
No, absolutely great, because otherwise they
Absolutely
wouldn't.
great.
Absolutely, because otherwise they wouldn't send us. You know, even the Russian version. You know, and
Right.
now we are waiting. You know, because they said they are going to translate for
Okay.
us, and we are waiting for the
They
translation.
did their best, but they're American.
No.
Oh, that's the
no,
review.
no.
You're going to read.
I don't know.
You have certain challenges that
I have
you have to
many
overcome.
challenges.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you
Yeah, go
think
ahead.
the medicine show is going to be invited back, or have you already been invited back?
We have been kind of, sort of.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, you have. That's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Very
yes.
nice.
How much does it cost to go to Russia and do a production and, you know, to be invited out
How
of
many
the
people did
country?
you
Do
have
you
in the
mean
whole?
measured this in blood, or do you
14.
mean?
Yeah. I'm thinking about
13,
pints of
15.
blood. Yeah.
13 people, I think.
Oh, 13.
13
Yeah.
people, but not really a lot of set. No.
Oh no.
The costumes. Yeah.
Yes.
Costumes we brought.
Like-
You had a
Lighting.
lot of luggage.
Talking about the fear, you know, I had no fear to go there, you know, because I grew up in a communist country. I know what that means, you know, to put you on the side and wait for hours, you know, to check your passport. Nothing like that happened.
Okay.
But
No, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your
Yeah, no.
flow, but Johan told us this thing that was very useful to me in sort of pointing what I did as a co-director in this whole thing. He told us this image of when he would be in Romania, there would be people posted on the top of buildings when there were huge crowds in the squares.
People, meaning the names of the people or
No.
the pictures?
No.
Of,
No, people,
Individuals.
humans.
With
People-
guns?
No, not necessarily.
Not
They
like
probably
that?
had them, but their job was to wave, to tell the crowd when to applaud and
Oh,
And I was-
crowd control.
Oh, my
well,
goodness.
you know, to make sure that, you know, as Trump would say, you know, this is the biggest crowd.
The biggest
ever.
crowd that ever came to an
Yeah,
inauguration. Right?
Exactly.
Hey, he might have people in his
He may do.
auditoriums
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I mean,
definitely.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's the kind of thing that it's very that he should have lived through that and seen that happen.
Yeah.
Was
yeah.
very telling and very useful in terms of helping transmit that notion to our cast. You know what I mean? Just of Americans who hadn't a clue about. We've never lived through anything quite like that here, not yet, anyway.
Yep.
And
Not yet. Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
Did you have an after the show talk?
we never did with the Russians, did we? We had, I mean, just one-on-ones when we would talk to
All right,
them.
tell us about the one-on-ones. What happened? Tara, did you have a one-on-one?
I mean, yeah. So I think the story I was starting to tell that was really meaningful for me was after the second show. I had gone up to our dressing room, and I'm always so exhausted after the performance. But these young girls that were tasked with carting us around,
Yeah.
so they were young college students that were in the interpreter training program, at the local college
All
there.
right, so you were actually serving
So they
them.
might have been spies. I don't know, but for us,
But
they
you
were.
were thinking they were.
You know, I did not consider
She
them
didn't.
spies. No,
No, I did.
I
Or Joel did, but not Tara. Okay.
I think a lot of us just sort of adopted them
No,
as
they-
members of our.
That sounds like
know,
like a new TV show,
company.
Teenage
But you didn't
Russian
tell them
Spies.
deep secrets about the Trump administration.
Oh, I
The
did
things
definitely.
that we know.
Well, that's they never mentioned. Nobody ever mentioned.
No one ever mentioned Trump?
No.
No.
No, they like him.
And throughout in the
Well,
other
Putin-
interactions I had with,
I'm amazed.
well, maybe one or two Americans did when I was, say, on a tour, a walking tour, and there were
In
other
St.
Americans.
Petersburg.
Yeah. Or
But the
Moscow.
Russians didn't.
No.
I find that kind of amazing, don't you? That they
It was,
didn't
it, was,
mention.
it was blissful. It was a week's vacation from Trump.
Yeah.
Well, for us.
In
Interesting.
Russia.
So you went to Russia to get away from Trump. That
That's
seems like a dichotomy
I
there.
know, and we recommend that for anybody.
So go to Russia to get out of the Trump mania that we're
Yeah,
that,
I know.
that,
But
that,
then
that
you're in
we're
the Putin mania,
Exactly.
and I don't think
And
you
you
got
will
any
see.
of that, right? Did
But
you get
no.
any Putin mania? Did you get any
No.
of
No,
the
although I
people
have
that were
to-
not happy
no.
with Putin or were happy with him? Nothing.
No, but I have to say too that we were. I was in Moscow the day before we left, and it was the day before Russia Day, which is June 12th, their victory over all their foes in the world. So it was
all the foes ever.
ever. So there was a big Red Square was very festive and full of people, and there was a Stalin look-alike and there was and a Putin look-alike, and they were posing for photographs. You could pay to have your picture taken with this mock Stalin.
Well, that's
or-
funny.
It's like Times Square when
or-
you have a picture
exactly.
taken with Big Bird.
With
Exactly.
a naked
Or
cowboy.
a pseudo Putin.
The
yeah.
naked cowboy.
Our
right?
equivalent of Stalin is naked Big Bird.
So it's like,
I said he's not that big. He's short.
so yeah, I mean, stuff like that happened, so our culture is kind of everywhere in a strange permutation,
Yes,
I-
yes, yes.
But we should get back to Tara's story.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, Tara.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's.
I totally forgot about it. I've been having too many toasts.
It's not. I mean, now it's like feel like there's been this build up.
Okay, but so you can't-
just
you went with the two
simply
teenage spies.
End of the performance. I went up to our dressing room. I mean, and the theater itself was an experience for a lot of us because it was this big, gorgeous, nice theater. I mean, we had
This
real
is the,
dressing
this
rooms.
Is the Chamber
you know.
Theater in Verona.
In Verona,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Nice.
Anyway, I went up to our dressing room, and these young girls were sitting outside of it, and they were crying.
Oh my God.
They were crying. They were very emotional. And I like
These are your
trudge up there.
translators.
Yeah, our
These are-
translators.
yeah.
And I go up there, and they just surrounded me in these huge hugs.
Wow.
And it was very, very
Yeah.
sweet. But it really just felt like, because when we're on stage, we see them clapping, whatever. That's great. But for us, it's like,
Oh,
coming
wow.
from here, you always clap at the end of a performance. Like, what does that really mean?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
you don't know.
But so to go up and have it was this instant validation that we had told the story at least appropriately in a way that they appreciated.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
that's what meant the most to me was to be able to tell their story in a meaningful way that was giving it something. And that
honoring-
moment with
honoring
them
their
was
story.
really
Yeah.
that's the right word, honoring their story.
Honoring and
because it's
giving-
their real
Yeah.
history.
And
you
we
know.
knew that they
So-
were genuine, that it was 100% genuine on their part. It
Oh, yeah,
was
there was no fake.
there was no fake. I
Yes.
mean, and we, especially because we had lived with them for that week beforehand, and they couldn't have been nicer. those
Right.
kids.
I want to get to one last thing before we end this, and while we have you here at the table, and while we're a little bit inebriated. I am inebriated. We've been
Well,
having
I
several
don't want to say
toasts
anything,
here.
but you have drunk most of the vodka
Just a
so
little
far.
bit more.
All right, my tendency is to do that. I wanted to touch on censorship of the arts in the former Soviet Republic, in the Putin Republic, because I believe it's a Putin Republic. In a recent article in The Guardian titled "The Arts Thrive in Putin's Russia, Though They Play a Complex Game of Censorship," and it's subtitled, "Russia's art scene prospers in bizarre critical climate fostered by the Kremlin. We may not know the rules, but we know our place." And the we in this title are the Russian artists, right? The argument made in that is that art production in Russia is open and free and funded by the government, but it's free unless it's not free. And no one knows what the rules are. Therefore, Russian artists self-censor. And they make sure they can do their work, but they do their work at a certain level that allows them to do their work. Did you see or feel any of that sense of self-censorship in the Chamber Theater, in the Voronezh Platonov International Festival? Was there a sense of kind of like, we have to do it, we have to put a cap on it?
No.
Chris.
The guy who runs the Chamber Theater, who's in charge of the Chamber
Who is that?
Theater,
Mikhail Bichkov.
Mikhail Bishkov.
Bichkov, which you talked about earlier,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He is also the head of the festival. He was the director of their production of Platonov's play.
Right.
There was absolutely never a hint that he was judging our production or that there was any kind of thing that you had to do with this particular play. And by the way, American artists self-censor themselves all the time.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, you can
To
just
get
take
funding.
change Russian to Yuzian or American.
Right. Chris and I have been going on over and over again about whether we're Americans, and we're really not Americans, because American includes South America and Canada also.
So we're Yuzians.
So we're Yuzians, and we use people. It seems very appropriate that we're
And
Yuzians.
if you just in what you said substitute the word American for Russian,
Yeah,
we self-censor ourselves all the time.
yeah.
And the Russians, in a way, I mean, Medicine Show has been supported by the U.S. government, by the New York State government, by the New York City government, but in very, very chintzy ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We asked them how they funded their theaters. 50% of it comes from the government, 50% comes from ticket prices. And that's, they fund the arts in Russia.
Yeah.
As-
Yeah, there is state
as-
theaters in Russia.
As a, it's just assumed that of course they're going to fund the arts. Theater, poetry, music, everything.
Not the case in the United States.
Not
No,
here.
no.
No, not here.
But throughout Europe, really. right?
throughout
Yes.
throughout Europe, and Russia is very much a part of that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Definitely.
So it seems that you didn't feel that you had to censor yourself. or,
No.
And we had
No.
and Anna, who was our connection from she was in charge of the festival, or she was our point person there.
Right.
I mean, she couldn't have been nicer. You know, she extended herself a lot. I mean, I walked through Voronezh with her, and we talked about one thing and another. And she couldn't have been more forthcoming and kinder. And we talked about all kinds of things.
Did you feel like you had to represent the United States in a way, kind of ambassadors?
No,
You must have felt that pressure. You must have felt like, I'm an American.
No.
I'm here. I gotta.
no, because
No.
the personal.
Absolutely not.
I'm okay. So I'm here. I'm me.
No, and also I had a conversation with the director,
With Bichkov?
Yes, with Bichkov about 14 Little Red Hats, because we saw a few images
Right,
from
of
his
his show,
production,
yeah.
and I said, wow, 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 wow,
Wow, wow, wow.
wow, wow. Just a second, just a little bit. You know, I
let
can
me
see
take this
you are.
in.
Yeah. You are very modern. I can see you use all those new techniques and new path which is in directing in Europe. And he said, okay, just 1 second. Somebody else before me directed 14 Little Red Hats in Russia. They did it the way you did it. You were the first one there. Be proud and be happy. You know, I said, okay. But when I saw that production and the money which was, which they
Right.
poured there in that production, I said, okay.
Can I propose or profit that maybe we're not that different than the Russian people?
No.
Because
No.
we're both kind of like fighting against autocracy.
Yeah.
And I think a big lesson for me too that I knew already, but was an instant reminder that people are very different from their governments. I mean, we are very different from our government in the same way they are very different from theirs. And ultimately, we have much more in common with them than we do with their government.
Oh, help
and
me.
we have this idea of them as a people that we get from our news, and for the most part, it's very inaccurate. So.
I agree.
Right.
I mean, from everything you've said. Wait,
Go
Chris
ahead.
wanted some more.
Yeah, yeah.
I was waving
Chris.
my.
No, that's all right. No, it's
Hose,
fine.
Hose needs some vodka.
We are
Hey,
all
babe.
vodka drinkers and jokesters and silly people and.
Does anyone want
serious
to make a
people
toast?
and
One
deep
final
thinkers.
toast?
You're interrupting me.
Hose.
You're man-erupting me, dear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Man erupting, exactly.
But I'm done.
I thought, yeah, I
For-
think.
Didn't.
I
We're all the same.
I want to take
Down
a
with
toast
mansplaining.
to humanity,
Yes.
to human beings.
to
We're
human-
really wonderful. We are great
On
Humanity.
on our good days.
on our good days.
Yeah,
there
right.
we go.
Exactly.
Yeah, no matter where we are.
So,
This is. Oh wait, where's the music?
here's the music. The bop bops are coming. Here we come. Bop bop, bop it up, bop bop bop, bop it up, bop bop bop, bop it up, bop. Everyone.
This is Bar Crawl Radio, and we have been talking with the actors and directors of
Platonovs.
Okay,
Bravo.
too many vodkas. Platonovs.
I practiced it.
14 Little Red Huts, which they recently performed in Voronezh, Russia. Thank you all for joining us, and we wish you luck in getting back to the festival next summer.
Dos
Thank
Thank you very
Vidania.
much.
Those
That's
Medina.
Medina.
Becky and I are off to Alberta, Canada to walk on a glacier, believe it or not. We'll be recording an upcoming BCR episode at the Jasper Park Lodge with glacier guide Peter Lemieux. And we may even get
Wait a
recording.
minute.
Peter Lemieux.
Is
Lemieux?
Lemieux.
Lemieux?
There, you read it. It's right there.
Does anybody speak French?
There. Does anyone speak French?
Lemieux.
Lemieux.
So I wasn't so far. We even get a recording in the Santa Maria Inn in Central California where Becky and I first learned to love bars.
Yep.
Yeah.
So keep listening and letting us know what you think. Please contact us at barcrawradio.com. barcrawradio@gmail.com. And remember,
The best conversations happen at your neighborhood bar.
Of
Amen.
course, if you're not near the bar you love the bar you're at.
Okay.
Love
We
the bar
need
you're
one more toast
Love the
to
bar
the medicine
you're at.
show and 14 fucking little red hots. There we go.
Молдаванка собирает виноград. Я бледнею, я краснею, захотелось вдруг сказать: станем над рекою, зорки летние встречать, разгулявый.
Terrific. Thank you guys.
That was great fun.
That was
you.
great. I think, a kind of thing that you just did by going to Russia, it's not a normal thing human beings do.
I'll say.
I mean, I was gonna.
And
I
it
was
should
gonna
be
just-
celebrated
yeah.
and reflected on.
You're
And
gonna
hopefully we
what?
did a little bit of that here.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Just to your ambassador question, I mean, because
If anyone
I
wants some
definitely
more
feel
vodka,
like
please go ahead.
everywhere I go where there aren't a lot of, like if I know that I'm at a place where a lot of Americans do not go, then I definitely feel like I'm an ambassador. You know,
Yeah.
because
So you didn't see
to
a lot
some
of
degree,
other Americans
you know,
there?
we were the
No,
only
some.
American group there. You know, in
There
St.
were
Petersburg,
groups
you
from
know,
Yeah.
there were cities
Belgium-
there were other Americans, but not
Belgium,
in
Cambridge,
the
England,
smaller. You know,
Yeah,
Italy.
So
yeah,
you're
yeah.
probably
There
smiling
were
a
no
lot.
American
just,
companies
yeah.
except ours. It's
Yeah.
a festival there.
Right, and there were a lot of different variety
Oh,
acts there.
definitely.
There was an aerial act, and I
There
I
was a-
listed them. We didn't get to that
There
question.
was a symphony orchestra. There was a
Yeah, they-
famous cellist. whose name I
It was a
forgot.
very wide spectrum of artistic.
Do you get a sense they do more festivals in Russia than we do here, like
Yes.
art festivals?
well, they have funding for it.
Culture is lifeblood to them. It's not to us.
It's not here.
Well, I mean,
You know what? I disagree. I think culture is a lifeblood. We just don't
It is,
recognize
but our
it.
culture, is advertising culture.
their audiences
This
are.
is the after show conversation.
Oh, are we
Anyone-
talking?
Oh, I'm still recording. Yeah.
Oh, you are you? All right then. No. The Russians, they were. I mean, the thing is that they're literate. They're very engaged audiences. I mean, I talked to people here who had been to Russia before, and they said that the Russian audience, they're very literate. They have a great frame of reference.
Yeah.
Well, they're an old culture. We're
Well-
basically kind of like kids.
Well, the six
Yes,
of
but
us
they-
here at this table are culture makers in this country. in Russia, it doesn't matter if you're a culture maker or a culture audience. You're equally invested in the culture. The general public in the United States is not really. The first time I went to a country that valued poets, I mean, in this country, I kind of hid the fact that I was a poet.
Right.
I didn't tell it people. People in other countries, notably Latin America, would say to me, "Oh, you're a poet? Come and have dinner with us."
Yeah.
And I would say, "Well, you've never read any of my poetry. Doesn't matter. You're a poet.
You're
Come."
a poet.
Yeah.
You're giving your time, your life,
Yeah.
the limited time you have in life to write poetry.
Yeah,
They honor you
and
for
the
that.
Russians are like that. The Russians have this reverence almost
Yeah,
for,
definitely.
for
That's-
cultural.
that's not us.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And
and-
they wait outside the theater entrance before the show. They file in right at that moment. They sit quietly.
They dress up.
They dress.
Yes, they do.
It's an
exactly what
event. They
what I didn't
watch.
point out.
with
Yeah.
and the quality of attention. And I always, as a performer especially, I always notice the quality of attention.
You can feel it.
Oh my God, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And they are right with you every step of the way.
That is amazing.
Yes, and
It's-
two
it's-
nights full house.
2 nights, full house.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even the show was going on, 14 Little Red Hats in Voronezh, another version. Michael Bichkov.
Oh, his
direct.
version was going on
Yes,
at the same
going
time.
on in the same time,
Well, not at
absolutely.
the-
It's,
And
in,
at the
it's
theater.
in their repertoire.
Yes,
no,
it
not,
is.
Not
And it was getting audiences too.
No, not in the same time.
Not in the
It-
same
it's just
time,
because it's
but-
going in their
it's in
repertoire.
their repertoire.
Right. Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
don't
Yes.
really have repertory theaters in this country.
And
Wow.
And we thought, at least I thought now, because the audience, they know the play, they know how heavy
Right.
is the play, they know how they are not going to come. But
I am. You know, this is a whole
Absolutely.
second program we're
Right.
getting
but,
into
but
now.
I mean, I also spoke to people, the say guides had done tours that I was on in the course of the time after the show. There was one guy who said, even Russians don't necessarily know Platonov. It's unusual that that you have a frame of reference
yeah.
for Platonov.
I mean, when I read Platonov, I thought it was a play by Chekhov.
Yes, of course. No, there is one, right? Of
No, I know.
course.
That's the one
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
you were.
exactly.
You were
Yeah, yeah,
First-
Oh,
his
Chris, you're
first
doing
play.
Platonov by Chekhov. No.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
doing a play by Platonov.
Yeah, quite
called
right.
14 Little Red Huts.
Yeah, yeah.
And that may have been where because Platonov was not his real name.
No, but he
He
took
chose
it.
that name.
He
He
took
took-
it, but I think it was a family name. I think not
Was it
so.
really?
I thought so, but I don't know. I have to look that stuff up again.
You know, basically we're done. I have all this stuff that we just talked about, which I
Yeah.
think is fascinating. This will be like the extra Bar Crawl Radio.
Right,
Thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
Thank
thought
you.
it was
Alan.
wonderful. And if you want more vodka, we still have like 3/4 of a bottle here. We paid for it, so please enjoy it.
So much, and the evening is young.
And the evening is young. You would take
evening
the
has
bottle
just
someplace
started.
else. Go to the park or something.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Tara. Thank
you for having
Johan,
us.
and thank you, Joel.
Thank
it was
you.
a pleasure meeting you all.
It was a pleasure
I
to
met
meet
you
you.
two
Yeah.
at John Jay, and it's great meeting you.
Great to meet you as well, Alan.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe you can talk to us again after next year.
Yeah, when you
Yeah.
take-
after
when you
next
take-
tour.
when you take 15 Little Red Huts.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Why stop at 15?
You know,
22
it's like,
Red Huts.
what is it that makes us enemies? It's not us.
It's the governments that make us enemies. It's not
Yeah.
us.
It's hard to tell. At this
Praise the Lord and pass the vodka.
Oh, especially past the